Welcome to DigitalK.
I'm going to talk a little bit about AI, which is kind of the title of the talk, but what I'm also going to do is talk a little bit about just my personal entrepreneurial journey and some observations that I've had along the way that I hope some of you, at least the entrepreneurs in the crowd, can resonate with. So we'll get started. Let's see. So I am currently with a company with a very interesting name, All Turtles. It's kind of a weird name. It was founded by Phil Libin, who's one of the founders of Evernote. And I've been hanging out with Phil in an operational capacity to his companies for, gosh, it's coming up on like 10 years. So we started this thing called All Turtles, which is a startup studio. So we make products. We make products, not companies necessarily. We sometimes make companies, but not all the time. And we do this right now. Our theme is AI. And, you know, AI is part buzzword, part reality. AI is a technology that's come into its own in the past few years. So the things that entrepreneurs can do with AI tools, they weren't able to do a few short years ago. And that's kind of the window of opportunity that we look for our products. Trust me, it's going to get a lot better than this. Okay, so one of our tenants that I want to talk about really quickly, you can see that we're in San Francisco, Tokyo, and Paris. We aspire to be in many more places. We're looking at Mexico City and other cities that we want to be in. One of the premises that we have at All Turtles is that genius-level talent is not focused in Silicon Valley. It's not focused in Paris. It's evenly distributed across the globe and equally difficult to find. So we believe that we need to be everywhere, not just in one location. Let me talk a little bit about just some of our companies. We have, gosh, we started with about 13 projects. One has been acquired, and 3 of them we decided to stop working on, as sometimes you do as an entrepreneur. The rest are forging forward. And I want to talk about just the practical AI, practical implementation of AI of one of these companies called Spot. Spot is a chat bot that is designed to help people at work communicate and report incidences that may be discriminatory. So if you can imagine, if you're at work and you're experiencing sexual harassment, that's not something you want to go to HR and talk to a human about, right? Like there's a lot of judgment involved with that. You're kind of, not in the best state of mind to be talking with a human about such a sensitive subject. So we created a chatbot that doesn't judge. It's based on research, memory research actually, that walks people through the experience that they had and allows them to tell it and make an accurate record of what happened. And then they do this anonymously, and they can choose to report it to HR, or they can choose not to. But it gives them a voice that currently we believe wasn't in the marketplace. So that's an example of practical AI, as we call it. We definitely like to lead with products. So with that kind of boring start, now I want to go into kind of my nightmare last night. I had a nightmare last night. I woke up. The next person who's doing a fireside chat after me is Alex Pachikov of Sunflower Labs. They're one of our affiliated companies, and I've been working with Alex for many years. And I woke up in a cold sweat. What happened is I came up on the stage, started speaking, and then suddenly I went into like a crazy state, like blacked out or something, found myself out on the veranda out there, not knowing what happened. I came back in and everyone was gone. And Alex was like, "You jerk. Like, look what you did, for my presentation." So in order for that not to be the case, I'm not going to black out. I'm going to stay up here and I'm going to share a few points along my entrepreneurial journey, some observations that I've had across my career that may or may not be helpful, but I think a few of them may be. So the first recommendation that I want to make, and this is something I've learned over my career, is don't buzz out. Like a lot, and we talk about this at All Turtles. We believe in the practical implementation of technology. We don't lead with technology. A lot of entrepreneurs, and I've been guilty of this as well, when talking with investors, etc., lead the conversation with the great technology that they're building that's essentially in search of a problem. Like, that's not a good place to start. Never build a technology in search of a problem. Build technology for a problem that currently exists that's a big deal that you can solve. And that's something that I think a lot of us miss. So let me give you some examples of this. Well, actually, I'm going to segue. I talked with an entrepreneur earlier today, and I'll kind of get to exactly what was said, but we as entrepreneurs, I think, sometimes have a terrible time of positioning our companies, like explaining to people what we do. Most of us can't explain to our moms like what we do, right? Like if you ask your mom what you do, they're like, I don't know. You know, they're not working at a big company, right, is usually the answer. So I think positioning is really important. Let me show you, if I were to tell you that I skateboard, which I've skateboarded since I've been pretty much in high school, I guess. If I tell you that I skateboard and explain it this way, this is kind of like the technology-driven explanation. Like, how stupid is that, right? Like, put yourself in a VC's shoes. You paint this story for them. They're kind of like, yeah, they're smart, but it's not compelling. It's not a compelling story for the marketplace. And by the way, I don't see my timer. Where's my countdown timer, guys? Yeah, I could get in trouble here. Someone count down for me. This is how you explain that you're a skateboarder, right? Like, you show cool imagery, you show what the end result is of being a skateboarder. Let me give you another example. I fly remote control airplanes. Like, what comes into your mind if I were to tell you in dinner conversation, I fly remote control airplanes, right? This is the image you get. Not a good image. But actually, the type of planes that I say I fly, my son actually became a much better pilot than me. So my son flies at air shows, these really big, amazing aerobatic planes. They have smoke on them, and he flies in these big air shows. Like, that's kick-ass, right? Like, that's an amazing story, right? So being able to tell our stories is an important thing. Thank you. Although I think that's way too much. I'm supposed to have, like, maybe 8 minutes left. So I asked someone here at the conference, what do you do? This was the answer. Well, we're kind of in the cryptocurrency market, but not really. Well, I guess we actually are. And then at that point, all I heard was blah, 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 cryptocurrency, blah, 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 cryptocurrency. Like, totally blanked out. But after the guy kind of explained what they do, I was really impressed. I was like, holy crap, that's awesome. This is really what he does. They've developed a unique way to lend people money using their cryptocurrency holdings as collateral. It's totally new and it's changing the game, which is where I like to be. Like, that's a much better way to kind of position your company and what you're doing. So I'd encourage all the entrepreneurs out there to really think about how you're presenting your company and what you're doing. Oh, I see the timer now. Sweet, 6.5 minutes left. It's getting there. So rip shit up. That's what entrepreneurs do. And I think this is, like, my background in skateboarding, it kind of makes sense to me now. Like, skateboarding is really about ripping shit up. It's about doing stuff differently. I didn't go into a traditional sport in high school like most of the other people do. I went into skateboarding where there was no coach. There was no one telling me what to do or how to do it. I had to figure it out on my own and fail a lot and figure it out. And that's essentially what I do in business. I go into situations, don't get it right the first time, but keep pushing and making it happen. That's what we did at Evernote, the international expansion. I was brought in at Evernote to do international expansion. And I remember I asked what my KPIs were, and the answer was just be awesome. And so I did. I went out and I just tried to be awesome, and we killed it. It was amazing. So skateboarding is very much like that. So this is me and my crew back in the 80s skateboarding, right? I actually had hair. I was wearing some kind of weird African hat there. But there's a few things out of skateboarding that I learned. Skate and destroy. This is entrepreneurship, right? Like, we don't build companies just to exist in the normal world. we build companies to change the world. And that means that you have to tear some stuff up. You have to tear some stuff down. And you can see a lot of companies that go through this process of pissing a lot of people off and coming around to where they become the new standard, right? Another thing that I had to deal with skateboarding, and we still deal with this today, is that, this concept of, hey man, skateboarding isn't a crime, because like the cops always tell you to stop skating at certain places. And actually it truly is a crime if it's private property, but we conveniently ignore that and say, hey, it's not a crime. And I'm dealing with one of our companies right now is in a heavily regulated environment. And we're in gray areas. You see this a lot. You've seen this with Uber, Airbnb. When it's heavily regulated and you have incumbents that want to protect their businesses, you have to be yelling, hey, what we're doing is not a crime. Let's figure out how we fit into this ecosystem and become the new standard. So that's also something that I took away that I think us as entrepreneurs can use. Okay, 3.5 minutes. Here we go. So another thing I learned early in my career, and I think this applies to, as I've spoken in many countries around the world, there's always the question, oh, wow, you came from Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is not special. It's not unique. It's not, yeah, you hear a lot of cool things going down there, but I hate that view of life. You guys are in Bulgaria. You've already done amazing things like we just heard in the prior panel. You'll do many more amazing things. Don't think that because you're here, you can't succeed or do big, amazing things. And what brought this home for me was when I was in my skateboarding phase. I, of course, got Thrasher magazine because that's kind of what you do. And I noticed that my cousin's band started appearing in the magazine. My cousin Ronnie was in this crazy band called Metallica. And I was always like, I was young and I was like, oh man, you listen to that kind of music, you're going to hell, man, But I bloomed late. I totally got into him after a while. But yeah, so Ronnie, one day a box shows up at my house and there's this demo tape, which was the first Metallica demo tape, with a white Hanes t-shirt that had the Metallica logo on it, just like screen printed. And it was just kind of a wing and a prayer, kind of like, this is what Ronnie's doing. He's into this. And my brother was more into music than I was. I was like stuck on Rush. Like I got sucked into Rush and became one of those crazy Rush fans. But my brother was kind of like into this stuff and got to know what they were doing and was really impressed with everything that was going on there. So this is Ronnie. There's probably some Metallica fans in here, right? You see James. Right next to James is freaking Ronnie. Like, and what this did for me, like back in the 80s when they were in his garage, his mom's garage, we need to say, his mom's garage starting Metallica, their sister, my other cousin, would walk by the garage and say, you guys suck. You're never going to amount to any, what are you doing? Give up, But yet they were persistent, right? And they kept going on. Now, the thing that sucked is remember the guy that died in the bus wreck? Who knows? Is it Dave Mustaine or Chris? No, it's Chris Burton. I forget the guy's name. But there was a guy who died in the bus wreck. He was this second bassist of Metallica, and they dumped Ronnie for him because they saw him play at a gig, and they're like, oh, we need that Ronnie, sorry. So Ronnie kind of like missed out. But here's kind of the reunion tour. Here's the 3 living bassists of Metallica. There's Ronnie. But what this taught me, let me bring this around to entrepreneurship, right? We see the Zuckerbergs of the world. We see Jack Dorsey. We see the Phil Libbons of the world. They're just people like you and me. There's nothing special, right? Like, there's no reason that any one of us in this crowd can't rise to the same amount of success and building companies of that magnitude. It's all up here. And this experience was really what woke me up to that, is knowing that when I went to Ronnie's wedding and I saw these people come in with like sleeve tattoos back in the 80s, that was a big deal. They had sleeve tattoos and looked like rock stars. I'm like, who are they? And they're, oh, that's Megadeth. So like Megadeth came to his wedding. I'm like, okay, these are just people. They're people like you and me, and that lets you know that it's absolutely possible, whether you're in Bulgaria, whether you're in Silicon Valley, or whether you're in any other place in the world. So I'd just like to leave that with you. You guys are awesome. Go out there and become Metallica. Become your own Metallica.